Okay, so our question is, why is tangent uphill and cotangent downhill? So there's two things that we need to keep in mind, and they're kind of explanations. So number one is we need to follow the rule of asymptotes, and number two is we need to follow the rules of ASTC. So first of all, we know that the ratio for tangent is y over x. So wherever y over x is undefined, we're going to have an asymptote. And that occurs whenever x is 0. So that's going to occur at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So the ordered pairs are 0, 1, 0, negative 1, pi over 2, and 3 pi over 2. Because when the y is over the x, we have a 0 in the denominator, and that's undefined. So if we plot our asymptotes at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, so that would be here at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. We have to remember that our tangent graph has to also follow rules of ASTC, meaning where it's positive and negative. So remember that the rule or pattern for tangent is positive, negative, positive, negative. So that applies to the graph. Positive, negative, positive, negative. And so we're kind of restricted by the asymptotes, so we have to make sure that our tangent graph is above the line in the first quadrant because it's positive. So we're going to be going up towards the asymptote, and in the second quadrant we are negative, but the third quadrant we're positive. So keeping in mind the asymptotes, we have to make the graph kind of go uphill. And that's what it will look like, since it has to be below the line in the second quadrant, but above in the third quadrant. And so same with the fourth quadrant, tangent has to be below the line, it has to be negative. So we have to draw our graph right there, close to the asymptote, but not touching it. So for cotangent, the ratio is x over y. So wherever x over y is undefined, we're going to have an asymptote, and that occurs at 0, which this is also 0, pi and 2 pi. Oops. And then we can draw our asymptotes for cotangent, and the rules of ASTC follow exactly the same. So we remember that it'll be positive in the first quadrant, negative in the second quadrant, positive in the third, and negative in the fourth. So if we draw our three asymptotes, one at 0, one at pi, and the last one at 2 pi. Okay, so the asymptotes kind of, we have to keep in mind where they cut us off, kind of, and so we have to keep our graph in between. And so if we need to have our graph above in the first quadrant but below in the second, we're going to have to draw a graph going kind of downhill. So that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be positive in the first, negative in the second. So same thing here. It's going to look exactly the same going downhill, since we need to keep in mind that it's positive in the third quadrant but negative in the fourth. And we have our asymptotes that kind of restrict us. And that's it.